What's going on, everybody? It is time for Truth Will Set You Free, episode number 62. That's right. We're on episode 62. I don't know where the time has gone, but what I can tell you is the Earth, the world, the United States hasn't gotten any better. It really hasn't. It has not improved in any way, shape, or form. So apparently we're not doing our job. So we're going to keep spreading truth. We're going to keep talking truth, and we're going to keep discussing the news in the world and hopefully bring some semblance of education to people so that we can come together as Americans and people in this crazy, crazy world. So, Truth Will Set You Free, episode 62, is going to be a pretty one-topic show. There's obviously a lot going on with Afghanistan right now, and we want to get into it. We've got ex-military, we've got veterans, we've got ones that have recently served, we've got military families, obviously with Sunni, and we want to talk about the 75 different angles you can look at what just happened in Afghanistan in the last week. So please do us a favor as we're about to get started. What's going on, Chris? I see you. Cindy, I see you as well. Go ahead and hit the comments. Go ahead and say where you are from. Let's see where you're from in the box. We're going to go ahead and get this show started. Jiffy, split, quick, super fast, wicked boy man fast, and we're going to get into the topics. But I need you guys to do us a favor and hit that share button as we speak so we can get this show started. Truth Will Set You Free, ladies and gentlemen. Episode on Afghanistan, episode number 62, begins in 30 seconds. What's going on, everybody? I want to thank everybody for joining. We got the core group here, Sunni and Casey. I'm going to be introducing some more people in just a minute. You can recognize most of them, and if you haven't seen one of them, David Winkler and another military gentleman friend of his name's Chris, is going to be on the show as well. You might remember David from our Operation Take Back America. We are hoping that we can get more people to join. As we saw on some of my posts, Sunni's posts, Casey's posts, Kevin's posts, everybody's posts, there's a lot of dissension on our opinions on what's going on in Afghanistan. There is obviously hate for the current president on how he handled it. There's also sound judgment talking about the last 20 years of failure. So we want to provide a fair outlook by people that know more than we do so that we can get to the bottom of truth and understand exactly what's going on. I want to thank some of the people that came out this weekend to, yes, it was called Your Mom's House. The bar at Your Mom's House was super cool. We had a great time doing a show this weekend with Rico No Suave. We had a blast. And we had some of our, of course, street lights and people in the house that came out and checked it out. Chris, Rhonda, etc. Kelly was there, of course, and we had a great time doing that show. And they let me go. They let me talk full-blown COVID, politics, V-word, all that good stuff. So I had an absolute blast on that one. So as we go, I'm going to keep an eye on the comment box because, again, there is a lot of questions about the past of Afghanistan and Afghanis and the people and our military involvement. So I'm going to keep an eye out, and we're going to bring up our guests. The first thing that I do want to do, if you do want to support what we do here at BetheChange, I always put this up there. Patreons, we would love it if you could join us. If you'd like to support us, patreon.com/BeTheChange USA. Also, if you would like to figure out anything that we've got going on, when we have new clothing, when we've got new items, when we might have to move on to Rumble, I don't know what's going to happen. Follow #BeTheChange.com and make sure you subscribe. Also, do us a favor right now on the YouTube page and on the Facebook page. Hit the like button. Either the hearts, the thumbs up, etc. And YouTube, if you want to make sure you catch when we go live, make sure you not just hit subscribe, but also hit the bell button. That is where you're going to get the notifications, let you know when we go live. The last thing I want to tell you guys, guess what? We finally have our Awake Not Woke gear. I know Casey's going to be rocking it soon. I'm going to have to get some sent out to Japan, to Sunni. But the website is finally available. So here it is right there. We've got men's and women's clothes. We've got fun stuff for you guys to check out. Multiple hats. Look at that ugly son of a bitch. So we've got different hats for you guys to check out with Awake Not Woke, as well as some of the shirts, women's shirts. You got a woman's logos with the original Awake Not Woke. I'm Awake Not Woke. That was probably our most popular for a period of time. It comes in multiple colors, and then we've got the more woman's logo. And for the men's, it is unisex, and I know a lot of you ladies like to rock those as well. So we've got a whole bunch. My personal favorite that Casey hates the most, the Hold the Line, We Are the Resistance, because it's starting to feel that way.
So because you're a freaking Q follower.
I am not a Q follower. The Q is absolutely ridiculous. I did not even say the words Mike Lindell more than 3 times this last week because I can't bring myself to have that conversation until there's ever any actual proof. Anyways,
hold the line.
Hold the line. Just go to hashtag BetheChange.com and go to the shop button at the top. So yeah, shop button right on the hashtag BetheChange. And Casey, what's the discount code?
Wake up.
Wake up for 20% off everything on the store. So we were going to do China virus, but you know what? That's already been taken by the Hodge twins. So we decided to do Wake Up for the Awake Not Woke store. So Wake Up will get you 20% off everything on the on that website. So cool, guys. Let's go ahead and get the show started. Let's introduce who we got. You've already met Kevin plenty of times, so we're going to bring him up. Kevin, what's going on, brother?
Wait, yeah, there we go. It's another happy day here. I'm super excited to talk about the wonderful positive changes that are going on in Afghanistan currently. A bunch of positive steps in the right direction for women's rights are about to occur. So, I'm just glad to talk about the positivity of, yeah.
Yeah, I like the CNN reporter saying they're chanting "Death to America," yet it's oddly calm. Like, is this woman really? Calm. Is she nuts?
My favorite is all the people who seem to think that China is going to be able to do what we can't in that country and is somehow going to successfully move in and occupy Afghanistan. So I'm really in for all just the wonderful takes going on right now.
It's living the dream. Easy. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm just here to hang out and listen, enjoy, and ask a few questions.
Not good enough.
You are the best at questions. You always bring the heat, so I'm glad to have you here and help me out because there's a lot to cover. And then, of course, Mr. David Winkler and his buddy Chris. Chris is, I think, on the other side of the computer. David, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'm actually going to go back to Kevin and ask his military experience as well as Suni's husband, what exactly he does in the military as well. So, David, what's up, man? Good seeing you again.
Hey, thank you for having me again, and I love you guys' show. So pretty much just my background, served in the Marines, went to Afghanistan in 2008 as the first grunt battalion to hit that ground. If you guys remember, we forgot about Afghanistan for a while, and then we sent the Marines in a giant surge. And I was with 2nd Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, and we hit it in 2008 as the first one to hit the ground with the 24th MEU. And then I went back again to Afghanistan as an advisor to the Afghan government. So there's a lot of insight that I have of understanding what's really going on or what really took place. But yeah, that's and my buddy Chris and I were advisors together to the Afghan government.
Excellent. And then Kevin, what was your military involvement? I know you never were boots in the ground, you said, in Afghanistan, but what did you do?
I worked Intel. I was a cryptologic linguist and did stuff. So that's about the experience I can talk about when it comes to that. But I can speak a ton on, especially like the human side of what's going on with people coming back, with people coming, the more mental effect of the fact that when you went over there with a mission, there was a goal. And it seems that everything we were doing in that country for the last 20 years was absolutely for nothing. All the limbs that were left behind, all the people who unfortunately did not come back alive. At this point, it's, the thing I'm seeing the most from my brothers and sisters is that it's why did we do any of this is kind of the sentiment going on right now.
No. Suni, I know that you're in Japan, obviously, and your husband serves out there. What is his role? What did we, I don't know if we ever actually get into it, but what does he do for the military?
He's a crew chief. He works on the F-15, so he's a maintenance guy.
Gotcha. So let's start with you, because obviously Kevin and David have a little bit more of a direct relationship specifically to Afghanistan, but military talks. Military all has different opinions. You guys are across the world right now. What is your husband's thought process of what's happened in the last 7 days?
there's more to it than what you see, pretty much. I have taken my thoughts are actually his thoughts. It just is what it is. Like, a lot of stuff that I come to you guys and talk about, I've already talked about with him before I bring it here. So I'm not opposed to what happened. I think we need to pull out. I think we have wasted enough resources for 20 years, including lives lost. It is now up to the Afghan government and military to step up on their own. It's not our problem. And most people don't want to hear that. But when I say American first, I mean exactly that. America first. And you know, it's unfortunate what they're going through there, but their government, you know, their president abandoned them. They need to step up at some point. We can't keep sacrificing our own for another country that's not willing to step up and do what they need to do. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not right. And like I said in the beginning of when I started talking, there's more to this than people actually know. I don't think this was a botched evacuation. This was definitely strategic. I don't think weapons were left there on accident. I don't think the Taliban just said, hey, I'm going to pick this day to come and do this A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I just don't. I don't. And there's more that I do know that I'm not going to say on here because I do have to respect the uniform and my husband's rank. But I'm America first. It's not our problem. And I don't disagree with Joe Biden. Neither does Trump. We needed to leave. We needed to pull out. Period. And that's my stance on it.
But was there a better way to do it? And I want to go back to David, because I know David and I. So I decided to make a post on Facebook, and again, I'm not in disagreement with you, Suni, at all. And after reading a lot more of what a little bit of what David had to say as well, I agree. We had to get out of there, but I think there is a bad way, a good way, an ugly way, and then what we did. And I just think that it was this epic failure. But I agree with you. There's a certain point where we have to wean them off the tit, and we've just failed at that. But the buck stops at the president, unfortunately, and I just feel like there were some huge errors in the final execution of it, and it might have been on purpose. Casey mentioned that earlier. David, what's your overall being in country for as long as you were? What is your A to Z? Go ahead and start out. What's your thought process about what's happened?
I think right now, to be quite honest, my fight isn't necessarily with Biden. My fight's more with the House and the Senate Armed Services Committee that has actually been failing at their job for quite over a decade when it came to not listening to those commanders and advisors on the ground asking for certain urgent need requests or certain training requirements or things that we needed to be able to train the Afghan government. It even came to the point where the Afghans themselves would go non-traditional routes so that we could get things to the Senate Armed Services Committee as well as the Congress. We had big command failures from ISAF command to what was called the C-Sticket command, and these commanders they were doing what's called U.S. solutions for Afghan problems and not really pushing Afghanistan forward to being able to stand up on their own. So there's a lot from an advisor standpoint that I could say, hey, it's not necessarily right that we blame it all on Biden right now. I could put the same blame on Trump. I could put the same blame on Obama, as well as I can go back to Bush and even Bush Sr. Because what's really annoying me right now is people don't know the total history of Afghanistan. When I mentioned the name Charlie Wilson, nobody knows who the hell Charlie Wilson is. They don't understand
Charlie Wilson's war.
That this is a secondary Charlie Wilson's war, right? So essentially reliving what they did in the 80s by leaving all the equipment there, and Taliban's just picking it up again. Hope to God we don't have to go back and fight them again, because now they got MRAPs. Now they got worse equipment than we actually had to pick up and fight back in like 2001 all the way up. But it's Charlie Wilson's war again. It's essentially what happened.
Suni, go ahead real quick.
Just to piggyback what David said, this is what they want. They want to cycle another war. It creates money for them.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked in the least bit. I'm not shocked. I knew another war would happen. I knew we would be sending more troops over there. They were never going to leave. Now, when Trump was in office, because Trump's not your traditional politician, he's just not. He was American first, and he understood exactly what America needed. But you have the establishment politicians right back where they left. They were going to start another war. It's inevitable. Just like there's going to be another terrorist attack. It just is what it is. Me personally, I just think we need to prepare. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst at this point, because it's out of our control.
I think our modern day conservatives are not all the modern day Trump conservatives, or whatever you want to call it, are not the conservatives of the Bush era. There is a lot of us, and I see it in the comments. I'm not a fan of the Bush family in any way, shape, or form. And I think Bush, Cheney, I think they took the issues that Clinton had with deregulation and then decided to fight wars all over the world for the purposes of lining pockets. So I think from a 15-year span, the Clinton to Bush Bush to Clinton to Bush administrations did worse for this country than any presidency could, even in my opinion, including Obama in terms of foreign affairs. I think Obama ruined our affairs in the United States. I think that's different. But I think what we're looking at is this right now, the current GOP, if you want to call it that, or the current conservatives are looking at this like, yeah, I get it. Biden sucks. Bush and Cheney blew this all out of it, like just destroyed our foreign, I guess, adversaries essentially, and they put us in the position that we are now. But I do want to know, because I think we're all in agreement. I don't think there's very many people that say we shouldn't have gotten out. How did this get what could have been done better in this moment? Does anybody?
Yeah, so a lot could have been done better. They could have continued the negotiations to ensure, because what Trump was doing with the Taliban was making it very clear to him, look, you have to, if you do not behave, we are coming back kind of deal. Biden is kind of throwing the shoe out there like, look, we're out for good. What's happening is Joe Biden is doing exactly what needed to happen. And like, I think someone in the comments said, in the worst possible way. This is how you withdraw from a country if your goal is to make sure no one complains when you go back in. If your goal is to ensure that now all of a sudden we're going to go from 2,500 troops there at the start of the year to 25,000 by the end. If that's your goal, this is how you withdraw from a country. At no point should our troops have been the first people out if we were also going to be taking civilians. We had bad intel all over the place. We did nothing to actually build up the logistical infrastructure for the Afghan military. So what happened outside of the cities in Afghanistan? Afghanistan is one of the most rural, tribal, impossible to navigate places in the entire world. And there were strongholds that the Taliban had that were only being kept held under by military bases that were supplied purely by helicopter. That was the only way to get supplies out to these posts in a lot of Afghanistan. And we left and we took everyone with us. We didn't even give the Afghan government the opportunity to negotiate with contractors, give them loans to say, hey, look, we know you're going to need some kind of augmentation to your security. You guys can have loans that you have to pay back for private contractors. If people want to voluntarily stay behind and be paid by you to defend their country, that should have been up in the air. The embassy should have been evacuated immediately. There's a million things that needed to go into this withdrawal that did not go into it. And now what is happening is our attempt at mitigating suffering by leaving a country is going to make the suffering significantly worse. As an anarchist, it just makes me very sick, because this is not how you withdraw from a country. This is, if your military is already there, you don't want, this now gives the press every opportunity to say forever, look at what happened last time we tried to pull out of a country. Withdrawing is going to be almost impossible now. They are setting it up so that every war we go into is a forever war, because there's always the threat that when we pull out, it's going to topple. This is twice now. I don't know who built the time machine, but they did it wrong. You're not supposed to make past events happen in the future. You're just supposed to put us in the past.
So actually, I want to get back to. I'm going to talk Vietnam in a second too. But what we could have done better is not negotiate with the Taliban during the Trump presidency. I respectfully disagree, and I'd like to lean on David on this question. I think negotiating with terrorist organizations, not from a perspective of let's make a trade, but letting them know where we stand, just like what we did with North Korea, what we've done with Russia when Trump was in office, I think is incredibly important. That's the same thing we're seeing when Soleimani, the thing they talk about, it's like they knew that as we were starting to relax our stronghold with ISIS or the Taliban, they knew that if they fucked around, we were still going to blow somebody the fuck up. I mean, plain and simple, we at least still had that toughness on our side. Whereas now it's been very evident that, we're going to pull out, catch you later. And
there is no spine.
We have no spine. I think that's important. So I think negotiating with the Taliban is important in times of,
you can't not negotiate with the enemy force to end a war. It is impossible. That does not happen. It cannot not happen. You always negotiate with the other side at the end of the war. You don't just say, okay, cool, bye. You always negotiate terms on your way out to ensure that it doesn't have to keep on happening.
David, go ahead.
I don't know. I'm a little bit conflicted with that because I've fought this enemy face to face. There is no talking with Taliban, and I'm going to be quite honest with you. They don't think in a normal mindset, and they don't think like normal human beings, right? These people are complete savages, and I'm going to be quite honest. Like, they do not care. It is death to the Western civilization. All right. There is they will be like, okay, cool. Thank you for, making this deal. And they're going to stab you in the back as soon as you make that deal with them. You guys are thinking exactly of what my frustrations have been in Afghanistan for many, many years. You cannot be diplomatic in a country like that. It's been going on for thousands of years.
Real quick.
It goes all the way back to Alexander the Great.
I am not saying you have to come to terms and come to an agreement on all that stuff, but you do tell them, hey, we're leaving, and if you do anything, this is how we're coming back in. That's what I'm saying. That's how you end the war.
They don't care, though.
The second piece to that is you're talking about the logistical aspect. Yes, we actually did, from an advisor standpoint, we actually had what was called 9 modules or 9 mods. The problem with the logistical system that we were setting up is they were used to what was called the Russian hoarding system. And they didn't want to get away from the Russian hoarding system, which was to pretty much hoard all the supplies in one central location. And it was, held on by a bunch of commanders, and they were stealing all the stuff. And we were trying to get them to go towards the actual U.S. Army logistical system. Another problem with that was it was collegiate doctrine put down on people who have 6th grade reading levels. Right. So your average Afghan could not really understand our sophistication of our logistical system. And so training these Afghan officers, you would think that these officers would be on par with our officers. They're not. They're literally probably like high school level, if that, and in understanding. And they just could not adapt to our style of doctrine that we were trying to pass down during training. And secondly to that would be the NATO forces. We're not training these guys correctly. We would have to babysit as U.S., inspection teams going over to these depots and being like, what are you doing? I remember there was one key one where I went over and I inspected the Afghan infantry units, sitting down with the German forces. I sat down with the French. I sat down with the British and a few others. And they were telling me that they were fielding infantry units at 40% strength. Anybody who is a military person here's 40% strength for your infantry unit. That is combat ineffective, right? You cannot fight. You cannot fight at 40% strength. And the Germans were okay with that. So were the rest of the NATO forces. The other thing is we didn't have enough combat officers from the Afghan side. So we were pulling all these specialty officers, like your logistical officers, your commo officers, or your quartermasters, you name it, all these different ones, and putting them out on the front lines, which was not helping out our ability to train as a real force. Like, you can't put an infantry platoon out there with no lieutenant or no, some sort of officer out there to kind of get that experience and learn. And it was really rough for that amount of time. A lot of my guys would go AWOL. A lot of my Afghans would go AWOL because when we trained them, we would put them back in the same province that they came from. So the Taliban's like, all right, gotcha. You know what? I'm going to kill your family. See how that works out for you for going ahead and backing U.S. forces. So these guys would jet. They'd be like, hell no, I'm not staying around. But there's just, as you know, Sunni, I think alluded to it. I think a lot of you guys alluded to, man, there's so much more to this than for me to just be able to say, hey, you know, it's all on Biden. I was like, you know, I was so frustrated where I agree with Biden. Just pull the hell out. But I do feel bad for the Afghans I leave behind because we broke our promise to them. That's what hurts me the most.
Yes, 100% yes. If we cannot get all of them over to our country, we have just failed so hard in holding up our moral end of the bargain.
And we'll get back to that, and we'll get to that too. Easy, did you have a question before I go back to Sunni?
Yeah, well, so, you know, I'll jump in. I've got two questions, and one's kind of a leading to the next topic question. So I'll wait here just a minute because I think we're still in the middle of this. But as you guys are seeing this happen, the sentiment across the board is we need to be out of there, right? And I think that any logical person can look at this and say, this has been terrible for our country, for the morale of not only our country, but also Afghanistan and the entire region, really. And now to see it end in this kind of publicized fashion is extremely disappointing. But and you know, David, you kind of have kind of touched on this. These people don't seem to want to reason. So that being said, we now have a tremendous amount of embarrassment that we're carrying around. I think on the world stage right now as being inept in our ability to protect our own citizens, as well as the people that we make promises to. What do you think this does to us in the world theater? Where does this put our strong allies? Where does this put our maybe weaker allies? And kind of start to affront that conversation towards the world stage, if you will.
First and foremost, if you guys think that every country that's condemning us loudly and proudly on the media doesn't know full well behind the scenes this was going to happen no matter what, and they're just so happy they get to use it to their advantage, the people in the highest levels are going to be feel just the same about us because everyone knew this was going to be a disaster on the way out. We're not the only country that abandoned Afghanistan on the way out, by the way. There was a lot of countries involved in this. And so what the truly tragic part is, we're not getting our allies out. We didn't get the civilians out. But as Sunni said earlier, unfortunately, this was always going to happen. Unfortunately, they are going to have to make the decisions themselves that their freedom, their liberty, their lives are worth fighting for on their own. They cannot count on other people to come and do it for them. This is a battle they have to fight on their own. A lot of people don't want to fight it because they're terrified, but those are, from my understanding, mostly older people. The younger people are the ones that grew up with the freedom, with the liberty, at least the taste of it. And hopefully it's that small taste that gets them wanting the full four-course meal of freedom at some point, because if they are not the ones that are behind this, if they can't easily fill even 75% of their readiness status for their infantry, they're never going to be able to hold their country. And it's on the Afghan people for the fall of the Afghan country at this point. Even though we've been in there and we've done a lot, you know, our withdrawal was not good, but at a point they are going to have to fight for their own country. We cannot fight. We cannot continue to do it for them. It's just, it's tragically heartbreaking to watch what's happening right now. It is, the human effect of this is, it's ripping.
So the question more pointedly is, how do we deal with the embarrassment essentially that we're dealing with as a country with our allies? Like, you, with boots on the ground, you guys have worked with these people. What is the sentiment? Is it total embarrassment, or is this are they saying, well, they fumbled the ball and not us?
It's correctly placed embarrassment.
Embarrassing for who? Like, I think people just need to go ahead and remove feelings from this altogether. Number one, 20 years. We've been over there for over 20 years. We have been training their military, their government for over 20 years. If anybody should be embarrassed, it's the president of Afghanistan. It's the army of Afghanistan. It's the government. This doesn't fall on us. We can't even keep promises to our own. We can't even keep promises to our own people. Our government can't even keep their promises to us. So
This is what happens when you don't have strong men.
What does it look like saying, well, we need to keep their promise? We don't know who the fuck we're bringing into this country. You don't know if they're Al-Qaeda. You don't know if they're Taliban. I really, just at this point, I'm so disconnected. I don't care. I care more about the soldiers that lost their lives for nothing. We were there for fake ass weapons of mass destruction. We weren't there for any good reason, like at all.
David,
so the
go ahead,
embarrassment
David.
falls on them. It doesn't fall on anybody in America. It doesn't, man.
David, go ahead.
I would slightly disagree because once again, I believe that we misplace blame. I'm not going to let the U.S. Senate off of their failures. I'm not going to let the House of Representatives off of theirs. And I'm not going to let our field grade officers as well as our general staff officers off the hook, because here's the deal. They are the ones that implement what was called coin operations over there in Afghanistan. All right. And if you guys aren't familiar with coin operations, it was counterinsurgency operation that was used back in the Vietnam era that did not work then and it did not work now. You even had General Colin Powell come out in the beginning and said this was the dumbest idea that you could possibly have used for a society of pretty much savages. You're talking about little tribal villages. When I walk into a village, they are in charge of themselves, right? And so we
tell them about the Shy Boys.
Yeah, the tribe. Right. So we keep speaking about this as a failure from a centralized government standpoint. I'm fine with that because in all actuality, when I did key leader engagements in all these villages, they don't want a centralized government. They didn't even recognize President Karzai back in the time I was there. They don't recognize the new president. And I'm going to sure as hell tell you, they're not going to recognize Taliban as being the leader of their village. They're going to go back to being the leader of their little village. And there's not going to be a centralized government of Taliban. I'm going to tell you that straight out because they're going to have to fight all their villages to go ahead and have control over all of Afghanistan. It's going to go back to what they were.
The Pashtuns and the Urdu have just as much to say about that country as the Afghans do.
I find it interesting. So go ahead, David, and then I got a question.
Oh no.
My question becomes this: so as quickly as as the Afghani government has lost control to the Taliban in a whole, in the mass sense, in the main cities, whatever. We talked about how we've pulled out the parts of the world. You know, we've had the conversation. Is it an embarrassment? Maybe, maybe not. Who really cares? It had to get done. But what I find interesting is in a very important part of the world financially, especially if you start looking at oil and the wars that ensue from oil, within a week, the Afghani people have lost their country, and China and Russia have increased their stronghold in Afghanistan with legit gaining power. I mean, this is what I've seen reported. Is this what are the long-term ramifications of this, or is this just a right-wing ploy on the news to scare people?
Let me tell you something. Maybe the Russians should learn from the last time they tried.
Seriously, like, at what point are we going to say, like, yeah, okay, go ahead, China?
And I would love China. Here's the thing. For U.S. policy or foreign policy, I would love nothing more than China to go ahead and try to take Afghanistan. I would love nothing more for them to waste their military power over there and lose to Afghanistan.
We are the most well-trained, well-maintained military on planet Earth, and I know how untrained and unmaintained we are. China is... They have not fought a war. They have fought like 3 battles in the last 30 years. Okay. Like they have not, we've been in a constant state of war this entire time. They're going to be no more successful about it. The right wing keeps using the Chinese expansion as this big, great scare tactic. It's like, yeah, every single empire that has ever expanded has crumbled. They're going to reach, they do not have the ability to maintain this expansion unless you're going to give me the argument that somehow what China brings to a country, what the Chinese government brings to a country is more appetizing to the people than the American way. At which point I say, why are you upset about China expanding? So either you think that the Chinese government is a horrible, evil thing that is not going to do anything but the same horrible, evil things wherever they go, thus instigating revolutions all over the world, just like the Soviets had, just like we've had to deal with, or, you know, you think that China's going to be great at it and you're worried because somehow the Chinese communist model is going to go into these countries and make their lives so good that no one's ever going to want to talk to America ever again.
Yeah, I don't think that's it at all. I think, and I get what you're saying, But my thought process is actually quite different. China, America, we have emotions. We want we want people to love us. We want people to think we're the savior. China and Russia doesn't give a shit. China and Russia wants core resources, plain and simple.
Yeah.
So right now, if they get in there and they're welcomed by the Afghani government, that's like, you know what, maybe they'll give us a little bit of military backing. They'll help us a little. I really don't even care what they do, but gives us a little bit just so we don't completely lose our country. And now they have a stronghold in Afghanistan and then also start having a stronghold in the surrounding areas. To me, that's incredibly dangerous.
Well, what's going to happen is that as the Taliban is going to work with China, there's going to be Muslims all over the country that are going to be really pissed that they're working with a country has over 1 million Muslims in concentration camps. People are going to start resisting the Taliban and blowing up Chinese assets, which is going to piss off the Chinese. The Taliban aren't going to be able to control the guerrilla warfare insurgency that's going on against them. So the Chinese government is going to move in a full-scale war or try to do exactly what we did to protect their interests, because Chinese companies are going to be the ones manning all the mines, and it's going to be just like what we've experienced for the last 20 years, except it's going to bankrupt China and not us this time.
I got to feel you.
And
I was posing a question.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say another quick thing is people keep talking about the Taliban as if it's some sort of organized force.
It's not.
And I'm kind of laughing at it because it's like talking about like Antifa and everything else. There's just a bunch of random people that call themselves Taliban. There's no head to the snake, right? So I believe right now what we saw at Kabul airport and what we saw all over the place is just a bunch of random people picking up guns and underneath the Taliban banner, but they're just random people. Because actually, if you guys understand the beginning of Taliban, you would understand that they're mujahideen, or they consider themselves mujahideen or freedom fighters. So they're just banding themselves underneath the Taliban banner, and that's why you see so many of them. I don't necessarily believe they just grew in strength. It's just the people are like, holy shit, I'm glad America's gone. Now I can do whatever the hell I want to do.
It's the riot mentality that you saw during the same BLM riots. You have cells of Taliban that are picking up people as they go that are interested in causing mayhem and getting free shit.
Yep.
There is
think about how much they don't have, like the average Afghan. So if you go out to a village out there, it's like going back to the Middle Ages. They live in these little brick, not even brick. It's like adobe. And they don't really have electricity. They don't have a whole lot of things. So just imagine going to a U.S. base and being able to ransack what you can for your family when you got fully stocked PXs. You got fully stocked I'm kind of mad about that because I saw protein powders and other stuff that they didn't have when I was there. So I was like, how is it fully stocked when you guys leave? But anyway, so they can go in there and get whatever the hell they want. So of course, to me, it's exactly like you said, like BLM and Antifa types that are like, hell yeah. Now I can bring back and feed my family.
Yeah. It is going to die off, especially since a lot of the younger men have only ever experienced their sisters and mothers having a decent life. There's a lot of younger men that have never truly seen the brutality of what the Taliban is going to bring, especially in the more metropolitan areas. So I'm not making any predictions, but I'm going to be really curious to see if that plays any kind of factor in a resistance building up within Afghanistan. I know that there is a resistance building up, and I think Hezbollah, I forget the name, something like that. They're flying under the Northern Alliance banner, but they're organizing a resistance against the Taliban. So it's only been a couple days. We don't know yet what it's going to look like, if there is going to be pushback from the Afghan people, because it's been less than a week since we pulled out. So
there's not going to be.
Go ahead, Casey.
There's not going to be pushback from the Afghan people. Like you had
you can't say that just yet.
You had a supposed military of 300,000 cave to 85,000 Taliban.
And again, in the American Revolution, it was the farmers that won the war for us, not the right. Uniformed soldiers. But so don't discount the people, man. That's the whole point of why the whole point of America being unassailable is the fact that if our military goes away, you still have to fight every citizen.
Fair.
Let's see if they have that.
I just don't see it being done on a large country scale. You could see it in the villages. It's going to 100% happen. They're not taking those villages. Those people are some of the strongest, hardiest fighters you'll ever see in your entire fucking life. It's the people in the cities that are going to be suffering the most from all of this. And that's what I think will happen is you're going to have them take over just in the big areas, and it's just going to dominate in that. But they'll leave the rural villages alone because they won't win.
So here's I want to circle to this point now because again, I think I talked about my thought with the ramifications with China and Russia, and I think that you guys have quelled that pretty well. So I appreciate that kind of conversation, that knowledge. So again, this falls back a little bit on Biden. Biden's history has been to leave countries behind. So and I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that's Vietnamese that voted for Joe Biden. We've forgotten as a country that he left millions of Vietnamese to die after the Vietnam War in a very similar situation to this. So this now is two strikes. And again, I think from a humanitarian perspective, that to me is what matters is what do we do to those that have helped us for so long? Because the ramifications to me, and we talked about this before we went live, this now is 2 times where we had people in other countries helping us during wartime, and we've essentially left. And right now we're leaving, I think, around 80,000 Afghanis out there to not just potentially die or be beaten, but far worse from some of these the people that are in the Taliban, whether they're, the head of the organizations or whatever, just a bunch of sick savages that are just going to kill anybody that supported the U.S. government. So we've done this twice now. Is there a long-term ramification if we don't at least do our best to clean this up, where we will never have another country be willing to help us again in a situation like this?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big, to me, that is the biggest deal. I mean, unfortunately, loss of life and the rape and the pillaging and everything is horrible. But now we have the U.S. has zero word, because no matter what, we could have a president that can come in and say, I will protect these people. And then we could end up having somebody like a Joe Biden come in, and all of a sudden our word's garbage. So then who trusts what?
This is going to destroy the human intelligence side of our intelligence community, because if you ask anyone who has any experience in human intelligence, the only way you can be successful in any theater is by being able to convince the people of the local population to help you. And if you cannot promise them protection from whatever force you're against, you can be an army, you can be in the army, be in the human community there, you could be CIA, doesn't matter. If the locals do not believe that the might of the American military is enough to protect them, then they are never going to help you. You're going to have crumbling intel infrastructures that is going to make, keeping an eye on what's going on even more difficult. But, yeah, this is going to have seriously bad implications when it comes. You look at what's going on with Taiwan. China's already talking, using this as a message. Look, Taiwan, America's not going to come to your aid. America's not going to do anything. If I was Joe Biden, I would be saying, okay, so we're about to put 10 aircraft carriers between China and Taiwan, because you need to do something at this point to make it known that, hey, look, Afghanistan is Afghanistan. We all knew this was going to happen. Don't let them convince you that somehow, some way, this was going to be all rainbows and fucking sunshine as on our pull out of Afghanistan.
Valid. David, I know you were about to talk. What were you going to say to that?
I'm in agreement with Kevin here. This looks bad, but I would also say I feel personally and it's going to hit me hard. I got Afghans that I literally served next to for a whole year and some change, where we literally went around the whole country and we advised other people, and they're actually friends of mine. Mm-hmm. I can tell you right now, I don't know whether they're alive or dead right now, because Taliban's dealing with the cartel. They don't mess around. They will go in and they'll just kill you, right? And they don't, and if there's no law and order, there's no trial, there's no anything, they will just go in and kill. They'll be as soon as they find out you work with the U.S., it's done. And so when Biden said, I think it was 2,000 visas or whatever that they're looking at, I was that's a slap in the face. You need to bring everybody that we work with over here, because you can go down to the southern border and let all these illegals in from, Mexico or whatever, and no questions asked. But you're not going to help out the people that we build bonds with over 20 years. People who literally fought next to the Marines, the Army, the freaking Navy, your special operations, you name it.
Yep.
It's a slap in the face. And I think that's actually what's hurting a lot of our veterans right now, is that we fought next to these people. They bled with us. I lost an interpreter back in 2008, and we did a whole memorial ceremony for this guy. He's a brother to us, and his family, we kept in touch with him as well. I think we tried to bring his whole family over to the United States. But it's a slap in the face to us, and that is where I would say, hey, yeah, the pullout is bad, but we need to do our due diligence to make sure that we take care of those Afghan people the right way.
Yep. This has been known for a while too, because the Trump presidency didn't do anything to expedite this process. The Obama presidency didn't do anything to expedite this process. This has been a failure on the bureaucratic level of the American government. Systemic failure. If you want to talk about systemic failures, 88,000 is just the amount of people who have actually applied for the visa in the last year. That's it. That's what that number is. That means that there are significantly more than that. They're going to get killed most likely, and that blood is on the hands of this bureaucratic monster that we have created.
And I got sad stories about this, man. About 2-3 years back, I got a Facebook message from an interpreter that I had in Afghanistan saying, hey, pretty much, hey, look, the Taliban knows where my family lives. They're coming for us. Can you get us over to the United States? So I immediately took that message. I brought it over to the command and said, hey, what can we do to bring this person over? We served with them. They verified it and all that. They tried to do what they can. I never heard from that guy again. I don't know whether or what happened to him. But this is the real thing, is like people are getting hit up over here. I got other buddies saying to me the same thing. Like, they are legitimately reaching out to us. I think people reached out to Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
He was talking about that today. I was watching that, and people are reaching out to Ben Shapiro for help.
Yeah. That's like the amount of soldiers that I know that have deep connections with the Afghans that they met that actually helped them. Like there are soldiers that I know who like had built connections with kids in these villages, right? And these kids are probably going to get slaughtered too. Like these kids that are probably now grown up are going to end up being killed because they were friends of the American people. And the most heartbreaking part of all of this is the fact that we are abandoning them, leaving them behind. Like David, I cannot imagine. These are your guys' friends that are being left behind by our government. These people have done everything. They have checked every box you would want someone to check on the box before they are granted citizenship into our country, and we're leaving them behind.
So armchair quarterback, based on just the fact that, between David, Sunni, and Kevin, from a military conversation, obviously we're not in charge. You guys aren't in charge, but we know that we had to pull out. From a perspective of hindsight, what should have been done different by Joe Biden? Forget about Trump for now. Forget about what Obama and Trump didn't do. What could have been done different in the last 7 days, 2 months, 3 months, etc.?
I mean, I guess if you want me to start, I would have stayed with the status quo of soldiers over there. I know it's not what a lot of people want to hear, but we could not have pulled out the way that we did. We would have had to keep the same amount of advisors, the same amount of troops over there for, I would say, an undefined time until we could figure out a real strategic way to get people out of there.
Got it. So just more time, essentially.
Yeah.
You got to have more time. That was just not, especially because if you understand Afghanistan, the Taliban comes out in the spring and the summer. They go back into hiding in the fall and the winter time frames because the weather gets so bad there.
Yeah.
He accelerated the process during the fighting season.
Yep. This is the worst time of year.
The dumbest idea you could possibly have. Yep. So, I mean, at least you could, if he was, I could at least understand if he said, hey, November, December time frame, which is actually what the Afghan government was trying to go for, was the winter time frame, which I would have been like, okay, more understandable. But he did it during the spring, in the summer.
And I agree. I agree with that 100%. Timing's better. But I think that it is really important as well to understand, David and I have the experience of being in the military. David has the experience of actually being in that country and getting to know the people itself. But I think it's equally as valid to understand how you guys, as just Americans, as civilians in America, feel about how your country has handled this and what your guys' outlook is on what it's doing to the various communities involved.
All right, real quick, because I know Easy's got to go. Eric, will you ask your final question? You're muted. Muted. Still muted. There you go.
Losing it. So in the progression of the conversation, I think where there's a lot of tragedy that's happening with this, of course, but what does this mean facing the rest of the world? And one of the things that concerns me is I've seen two things that have been put out by Chinese state media specifically targeting Taiwan and saying basically the long and short of it is this is what you get when you use the U.S. as your protective system. And they're using Afghanistan as that example. And so I would love to hear your guys' take on the world stage, where that puts us in conflict with China, knowing that Taiwan is well within their sights. What do we think's coming next?
Taiwan just sitting there like, oh, you tell me we could have 20 years of America in our country? Let's take it.
To me, this is on a world stage. This is exactly what China wanted with Biden, right? This is exactly what it is. He's got weak leadership. Him, and not only that, man, but his Department of Defense, his Secretary of Defense, weak. His State Department head, they're weak, man, and that's exactly what we were talking about in 2020. You don't get that with a Trump. You don't get that with Trump. You get this with Biden. And if I was our adversaries right now, I would do all I can do right now within these next 4 years, because shoot, if I got Biden, man, I'm going to go ahead and do whatever the hell I want. And that's what China's doing. And I don't think Biden's going to take the appropriate responses looking at who we got as SecDef and who we got as Joint Chief of Staff, Milley. And then, I'm actually really afraid on the world stage because we got a lot of just asinine leadership up there right now. And I'm trying to be nice because I'm respectful of those who are still in, but I'm afraid for all of our military people that are active right now. I'm afraid for our U.S. State Department. This is just bad time.
Yep. That answer your question, Easy?
I want Sunni.
I'm talking to my husband. 1 second.
We'll, yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
By the way, I'm going to bounce, but I'm listening.
All right. Sounds good.
You said what are we thinking is going to happen now that China is putting out propaganda pretty much, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I think China sends threats all the time and they don't do shit.
When are we going to show that we are weak enough, though, that they can actually act?
We are already weak enough. We are. The military is weak.
If they thought that, they would have done it.
No, that's not true because they have more to lose if they do attack us. They already know what it is. They're not going to do anything. Our military is weak. Us. The military is woke. This is a prime time to do whatever they want to do. They're not going to do anything.
I think that if the Chinese government legitimately thought that our military was weak enough that they could take Taiwan right now, I think that they would be strongly they wouldn't just be posturing telling Taiwan, because if you can do it, you don't have to tell them, right? You don't. So
do you know who the Secretary of Defense is? Our orders are coming from the Pentagon. If you think for a second Lloyd Austin is going to puff his chest at China, I don't know what planet you're on.
You don't have to puff your chest. You have to do legitimate military games and figure out, do we have the manpower? No, the Chinese government. The Chinese government, there's a difference between an America that's weak right now and an America that has something that they want to fight for. You don't want to do something that's going to fuck around and get you America post 9/11. You want to keep America 2021.
That America's
that America post 9/11.
Thank you. That's gone.
Right. Those generals I respected back in the day. That was 1 star. Correct. That was 1 star Mattis. That's not 4 star Mattis.
Fact.
Right. That is 1 star Mattis on the battlefield with you, saying, "Get over that damn hill, and we're gonna go take it." He fought with us over there in 1st Marine Division. I'll tell you that much.
Our military was also pretty weak post 9/11.
these are some of the best warriors I ever fought with.
No, I'm saying. Okay, so let me rephrase that. On the day of 9/11, 2001, our military was actually very weak because we had not been going into too many conflicts. In fact, Bill Clinton had been doing a significant drawdown up until that point. That's what I mean. Our military was also not too strong, and within 2 years, we were at a point where there was not a single group of countries on the planet that would have been able to actually theoretically stand against us. That's what I mean. That's what I meant in that situation.
We accelerated our military very quickly, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Pearl Harbor. The day we were playboys, the day of Pearl Harbor. We were playboys in 2011. Yeah.
And within a year, we were landing on the beaches of Normandy, knocking down Germany's defenses. That's what I meant by that. What China wants is to maintain 2021 America. They don't want to give America a reason to go back to September 12th, 2001. They're doing everything they can to avoid that because they know very well that we are not the paper tiger. We have crazy people in our leadership. There are people within our leadership in a military industrial complex that would love a reason to go out. And if you give the American people something to rally behind, China doesn't want that. So they want to do everything they can to keep 2021. Sorry.
I believe right now at the head shed right now, we're too woke to have that kind of leadership that would stand up to, let's say, China actually making like a significant move towards Taiwan. They would still be like, oh, I'm going to draw a red line. And then they're going to go past that red line. We're not going to do anything again because I don't feel like we have the toughness of that like OIF 1 era type leadership.
We don't.
We have people who believe in critical race theory, white rage, and, all this like woke stuff that is destroying our military, and our liberal leadership is actually moving up in the ranks.
Yeah,
they're not getting out; they're just moving up.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely are.
I'm right here at the East China Sea. All right.
Yeah.
China comes over here all the time.
Yeah.
Threatening. China goes over to Taiwan, flies over, sends warships, sends submarines, and we don't do shit.
It's because it's all posturing because you don't want to start. This is a war that is going to cost millions of lives when it occurs. Millions upon millions upon millions. That's not something to take lightly. That's not something to shoot down a jet intended purely for show. If you're unaware, shortly after China started to move into get a little bit too aggressive on Taiwan, we basically readied every single airstrip across the entire Pacific Rim, and
they've already threatened nuclear war. They were like, "Yo,
they don't have the capabilities. They don't have the capabilities, and they know it.
America,
they don't have the capabilities.
I dare you to do something in regards to Taiwan.
Yeah, they don't have the capabilities to do anything to us.
That's cool. The point is, our leadership sees them sending threats nonstop, and our leadership has done nothing.
Let me put it this way. What happened on 9/12 is there was millions of people in America that were motivated to fight for the American values. They flooded the ranks of our military, and within years, our military leadership was incredibly strong. There was a period there where it was incredibly strong.
2021?
No,
I was an army.
What I'm saying is,
get that in 2017 with ISIS.
If China starts actually landing troops and blowing up Taiwan and going after Hong Kong, you're going to get a lot of Americans that are ready and willing and screaming to go over there and kick some ass. I promise you.
I think it has to be in our own backyard for America to give a shit.
Potentially that too.
Let me break it down like this. Look what is happening in the United States of America, where we are being forced to do things just from a difference in a political party, and nobody in America cares. They're actually teaming up against other Americans. So we have issues already going on in our backyard, and America, specifically the people in power, which is the left right now, couldn't give two baker's fucks about us. So if something happens in Taiwan, they're not going to give a shit.
Let me paint a picture for you.
A funny stat for you is over the last 20 years, less than 1% of Americans served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, if you're going to talk about a war with China, do you think it's really going to go up above 1%? Like, there's not a lot of people nowadays that are patriotic enough to go ahead and do that. Yeah, you're going to get the normal amount of recruiting. You're going to get the normal numbers that we get. But you're not going to get the over flooding of World War II types to go and actually fight for the country. Because
1/3 of 1% is 1 million people.
We are not what do they call the World War II era? It's like the greatest generation.
The greatest generation,
generation anymore.
Yeah, no.
People are joining the military just because they want benefits. It's not even because they actually care.
Yeah, no. So
they want to
you're
get
100% correct.
You are
They want to
correct.
get some sort of bonus. If the military is not putting out money or some sort of whatever, people aren't joining.
But circumstances change. Circumstances change. All it takes is one event. And let me paint a picture for you. Taiwan is the king of making microprocessors across the entire world. Taiwan has an incredibly important asset that our military industrial complex needs and needs and needs. We all know that this involves an ability to spin PR campaigns, the likes of which you have never seen before.
We're not like the likes we see right now with the vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. Now imagine they're doing that. We saw how close we were actually getting with Hong Kong. Now imagine it's Hong Kong and Taiwan, and the media is on the side of it because there's a president in office they support. Because the only reason we didn't go into Hong Kong is because the media hated Trump and was like, no, we don't need to go into Hong Kong, right? Like the circumstances change all over the place. People can be manipulated. And again, if you want to increase our military from 1 million to 2 million, you only need 1/3 of 1% of the American population to agree to it. That's how small the military is.
But you gotta understand, man. You got a Democratic president, right?
Yeah.
You remember what happened underneath Obama? Obama downsized our military and hurt it completely. It's not a Republican in office that will boost the military strength. It's the opposite. These guys will still be cutting people down. Like they cut the Marine Corps to ridiculously low numbers.
Well, you have to be intellectually honest. So what happened after Obama cut down on the military? What was the immediate result of that? We ceded ground and we were back in with even more.
Hold on. Let's be intellectually honest. What ended up happening is a lot of the guys that I served with got kicked out of the military for something stupid they did before they joined the military.
Yeah.
And that actually hurt us because what ended up happening was all your most combat experienced Marines, soldiers, you name it, were out of the military. You had to rebuild it through multiple deployments. They were churning and burning West Pointers that were only doing enough to fulfill one contract. So they're only staying 6 years. So even your most prestigious academy grads were not staying in the whole 20 years.
That's not what I'm talking about.
The talent of the military.
What I'm saying is Obama drew us down. We immediately lost a lot of ground in both Afghanistan and Iraq. And then what followed was the surge. So they used the drawdown to, in fact, not only increase, but to blow out the amount of money that was being spent. That is what I'm saying is that from that perspective, it is very easy to use a retreat in order to create an even larger opportunity for an advance.
He hurt it
wasn't good.
It absolutely hurt.
Yeah, it hurt.
That's how you lose a lot of people.
Yeah, but but for the military industrial complex, that was just money. That's all that was money. That's all. They don't care about the actual effectiveness of the fighting force. And in fact, for every soldier that dies and gets his equipment blown up, that's more money in their pocket to replace it. So I think that what they're trying to do right now is gear us up to be perfectly fine with going back into Afghanistan. And if Taiwan is getting invaded, it's going to be no problem at all for them to start spinning up the media machine to get us back in there. They're going to be able to get both sides on this once again, because remember, there was one person out of the 530 plus that are in our Congress that voted against these wars. Either party, not even my boy Ron Paul voted against it. Barbara Lee from California was the only person who voted against these wars. Now, they can absolutely get us on the train to do that with Taiwan as well, I believe.
Well, here's the problem with that. It's still got to go back to a joint resolution. You got to go back to the War Powers Act, and I don't think the House and the Senate will do anything with that.
There's a lot of money on the table. They were able to get 420 to 1 the first time around. All they need this time is a little bit less than that. Even if the squad says no, and even if your mainline, if your true conservatives say no, they're probably still got about 350 votes in there.
I think they care. They don't care about Taiwan. They don't care about the United States military.
It's money.
They care more. Yeah, they care about money, but they care more about the 2022 election than anything else. And any sign of weakness of saying that maybe Republicans could help us in some way, shape, or form, they'd rather us bury ourselves and maintain in power, in my opinion. But
or Joe Biden could be the president that stood up to China. I'm just saying.
It's never going to happen. Suni, go ahead. Oh, Suni or Casey. Suni, I know you were about to talk.
I don't know. I think people just need to be realistic and look at the mentality happening not only in this country, but within our military ranks. Mm-hmm. All right.
No,
The Air Force. I'm just going to talk about our squadron. All right, 85% of our squadron is vaccinated.
Yeah.
They easily got these guys to vaccinate because I'm taking your freedoms. You're not going to mainland. You're not going out to eat. You're not doing anything. You want to be able to go do these things, you better get a shot. And they lined up. This is the mentality of our military. Now, this is just one squadron. A good portion of the military is already vaccinated. They're trying to mandate it for the ones that are like, nah, I'm good. And those people that don't want to get vaccinated are ready to be done and get out.
They're using it to eliminate political opposition.
Look, they sign up to defend the Constitution against foreign and domestic. They understand that. But this generation that's coming up, the leadership that is in place now, we're weak, man.
And there was a comment earlier. There was a comment earlier that said, the American children are growing to hate America, and this is a master plan from not inside of the United States. Because if you look at it, it's like the difference between 9/11 or 9/12 and today is 9/11, 9/12. We still had pride for our country. We maybe didn't get along great before then, but we were still taught how great our country was. Right now, we've got a bunch of young Americans that if something happened to the United States of America, they would go, well, we deserved it because we're just the biggest piece of shit, racist, horrible country on the planet. And that is the ultimate danger that we have in our society is the fact that we don't have anybody that will stand up and fight back.
What do you think are...
Suni, go ahead.
Yeah. I've watched service members walk around in I Can't Breathe shirts. I've watched them walk around in Black Lives Matter shirts. I've watched these like grown ass star generals, man. They are too woke. I love your optimism, man, and optimism is great.
Look,
but we need to come to terms with where this country is.
Yes, and where it's going, because what is the cycle? The cycle is strong men create good times create weak men create bad times. That bad times phase, what we are entering, is the only way you get the strong men back. And we all agree that we have a problem with it, right? This is what I'm saying. Right now. But unfortunately, we're gonna have to. It sucks. Yeah, but we're gonna be the ones that have to deal with this. And that's what I'm saying is that event happens, you're gonna find those men are gonna present themselves. Because more than anything, what's happening is you have 85% of the military vaccinated, you have 15% of the military that's having to take a very strong stand. And that 15% is gonna be a lot stronger than basically the other 85%, that's for damn sure, is what I'm saying. What?
Are you kidding me? I'm reading his comment. What are you talking about? Tory Station is full of army people, woke ass army people.
Real quick,
sure they're not Marines.
Marines. David, go ahead. We're going to wrap up in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So go ahead, David.
Just real quick on Kevin's point, right? So what I would end up seeing, right, and what I would think would happen, and when you're talking about if something happened in the United States, who would join? It would be your conservatives, right? We all probably agree it would probably be your conservative. Yeah. So here's the problem with that mindset is if you don't remember what's happening in the military right now, they are having all sorts of classes and stuff on insurrection, right? And they are trying to purge the conservatives out of the military.
They're trying very hard.
Right. And so your Secretary of Defense is literally wrote a memorandum and put directives down to the commanders of trying to root out extremism. And what he calls extremism is just basic conservatism.
Conservatism.
That's
it.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Here's the problem. Those are your people in places like Texas who line up at the door to join the army because they actually have a love for the country. I recruited out of Brooklyn, New York for the army. And you want to know what majority of them joined for? It had nothing to do with patriotism. I would ask each and every single one that came across my desk. I'd be like, what are you really joining for? And they'd be like, money for college. As soon as they hit that GI Bill year, they were like, I'm out. Peace.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them like that.
Oh, you have a $50,000 bonus? Okay, cool. I'm going to pay my own contract and I'm out. Right?
Yes.
Those and that's your leftist areas. Your blue areas are not joining for patriotism. They would rather see the army burn. And I would tell you, I was an NCO. I trained a lot of these liberal soldiers who literally hated the army. they hated they hated America, but for some reason they were wearing the uniform, and I'm like, and I had to deal with them. I had to deal with them on a daily basis, but I'm like, damn, like, why are you here?
You think they're going to stick in? You think they're going to stick around? They're going to get replaced by the people that want to fight, and it's just
They're going to
cyclical.
get stop lost is what's going to happen, what happened to us in the
They're
beginning.
not going to, because here's the
They're
thing
gonna
is that
hold us. If you know that a gigantic war is about to take place in something like Taiwan or whatever, you don't have an option to leave the military. You're going to be stuck with those dirt bags that don't actually want to be there. They don't want to fight, and then all they're going to do is add additional people in which fattening up the army. I don't necessarily agree with it, or the military, because you get a lot of dirt bags that don't want to be there. You got to babysit them.
The posturing stops when the fighting begins.
Can we talk about this as a poll? I mean, as a panel, of course. People say stuff like this is doom and gloom, and I say this is where we are, and you need to whatever rainbow. No, whatever. Like, listen, give me what you're smoking, so that I can be on cloud nine like you. Like, oh my goodness, Americans are just going to turn around, and everybody's just going to love the country again, and we're all going to be okay. Not likely to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this directly follows. Go ahead, Casey, and then I'll go.
Well, let's just be honest here, right? Like, the truth does hurt. Like, no one wants to admit it. And so when you hear this solid facts from people that have been in the military or currently active in the military, you will get solid facts.
Yep.
They're not going to give you white glove treatment and be like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll buy you flowers and then deliver you a soft message." Sorry, that's not how it's done. And that's where this comes from. You think doom and gloom, but it's a strong, solid, clear message on exactly what is going on right now.
It's true.
And I think you're misconstruing my optimism. My optimism comes from a place of knowing things are about to go to shit in a handbasket. It's going to get. What I'm saying is things are going to get so bad that what you're going to have to see is a resurgence of the strong people in America, because otherwise it's going to fall. And I can't believe that America is going to crumble, because I have to believe that the American people are strong enough to overcome what's in front of them. Even if it's not 100% of the people, even if it's not 75% of the people, the American people will stand up and fight at least enough. I will not give that optimism up. I will always believe in the American people. Otherwise, there was no reason why I was fighting for my country to begin with.
That's the truth. And then this is where we're at right now is Ms. K, it's not doom and gloom. It is doom and gloom, but it's truth, as we've just said. And ultimately, this goes along with what I was saying on my social media post, where I'm like, fuck this. I'm done being nice. People have seen me talk to Cash, talk to Suni, and be like, guys, calm down. Like, let's turn the other cheek and be nice. And then there was a lot of people that are like, oh, I like Spicy Anthony. And then there were some people saying like, no, God's got this. God's got this. If you've read the book, The Alchemist, the concept behind The Alchemist is that all along there's signs of things that are trying to help you as you go. God has been trying to guide us the best we can, and we have been calm to a certain point. But at a certain point, he is telling us to take up weapons. I'm not saying take guns against our neighbors, but I'm saying he is telling us to realize we have to fight back. We have to stop being fucking nice. If anybody's been nice, It's been me for a year and a half. And look where it's got us. Look where it's got us. We are in a place right now where our country is in shambles. As even a positive Kevin down there, he's saying, well, we're just going to wait for it to crumble because we kind of have to. And like, that's the point. Right now, it's not a time to be nice to people anymore. I'm sorry. We have been walked over. We've been trampled on by leftists and by the liberal horde who have kept us from having careers, who have kept us from having our First Amendment rights, our God-given rights, having the ability to actually live freely in a country where we all should have freedom of rights. We have lost that. We've completely lost that. So we're not talking about doom and gloom. We are talking about it's time to step the fuck up and actually speak up and do things in our daily life where we tell people to shut the fuck up. Yep. That's what we're trying to get at. So it's not doom and gloom. It's time to step the fuck up.
Facts.
I see a t-shirt coming.
One quick thing, man, on that. Kevin keeps bringing up 9/11. You know what's happening on the 20th anniversary of 9/11? Did you hear what New York or Mayor de Blasio did? He's not allowing first responders to be there.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
only allowing the families to be there. So when you talk about this patriotism that's supposed to come back, the
Build a
20th anniversary,
Yeah,
no first responders are allowed there.
Yeah, and let's see how that goes over with the first responders. It's not Bill de Blasio who represents New York, it's the New Yorkers that represent New York. And it is a little depressing seeing how many are complicit. Don't get me wrong. I am well aware of just how widespread the consent to this seems to be. But I also know just how viciously the people who are not consenting are fighting back. And that's what I'm turning to, because it's the American Revolution didn't have 75% support. It had about 15% support, and it was still fought. It still had the men to fight it and win that war. It still had the men to fight and win and fight for strong values and strong beliefs. You don't need everyone. You just need the strong ones.
Yep.
And I'm not talking numbers. I'm talking the quality of the man the quality of the people that is going to step up when this all goes down is going to be of the quality necessary to get us through this.
So Suni just brought this up. I think before we do that, Gully, we have lost rights. Some of us have. I have very little ways to financially support myself in the last calendar year. I've been questioned by the FBI for standing on a lawn that is paid for by my taxes. So yes, I've lost my rights, Gully. So just want you to know that.
Can you do cocaine off your desk in your house there, Anthony?
No, but I would choose not.
So you've lost your rights. There you go. Your rights are taken away.
Suni, go ahead and bring that back up. I say up with hope and down with dope. Suni, what'd you do with that? Where'd that go? So yeah, this is the what is now considered national terrorism. Just like, by the way, Stephen Colbert said that he was relating the Taliban and Republicans in his monologue last night. Yep. Another human excrement piece of shit pushing more division. But anyways, Suni, what does this say?
This is a DHS. Well, he brought up 9/11 and what New York is doing. Well, they've now labeled it potential terrorist threats. You can't even go celebrate and remember people that lost their lives because it's a potential terror threat. This is where we are. And you know what? Some people will go. Some people will say, you know what, forget that. But the majority of us are going to sit at home. And you know what? They're just going to sit and pine. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, poor me. Oh, I don't want to wear this mask. That's what they do. If Americans would stand up and say, yo, fuck your mask. I'm going to work. My kids are coming to school.
I dropped out of school over it.
Do something about it.
Yeah, Kevin's taking a stand.
Be as strong as they wouldn't feel as strong as they feel. But we're weak.
Kevin's taking a semester off. Kevin is standing up for what he believes in.
Yeah,
they put a semester off is not protesting. That's you giving in. How?
What? I said I'm not going to school anymore because they're mandating masks and vaccines.
How is that going to change what they're doing though?
Because I'm also going to be active on my campus fighting against this. I've been participating in various protests against this. Like, I'm doing what I can. There's not. What do you want me to go in and put a gun to Joyce McConnell's head? Like this stuff. Yes. That's, you can't go do that kind of stuff. You have to fight in other ways. Yeah, exactly. You can't do those things. Those things are not okay. You have to fight within the realms of what you have available to you. And so the thing I have available is coming on podcasts, is doing protests and stuff like that. So
Suni, that's my thought process. If Kevin were to just say, well, screw it, I'm going to take the semester off and play video games, then yeah, that's not really standing up for anything. But if he's going to take the semester off and say, I'm going to write articles, I'm going to fight back, I'm going to continue to use my voice, that's the best that he can do, and continue to get other people to do the same. With that said, Gully Bull, I need to really quick straighten out because Gully Bull is a fucking idiot. So
I gotta go, guys. I gotta get to my kids. But all
right.
Here's look. Reality, perception it's your perception. It's not reality. It's your reality. Yep. When we're looking at the country as a whole, we need to be honest with ourselves. Am I saying that Americans can't stand up? No. Do I think they will? There's a part of me that's like, yeah, and there's a part of me that's like, no, because I've watched them for over a year bow down to fucking mandates, not laws, mandates.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right, Suni the postmodernist. Thank you, Suni.
Go take care of your kids. Thanks for your help tonight. Appreciate you. So back to this dumbass. So a job is a right if it's justly your job. And I don't know where Cash came from. I'm talking about myself, who was standing on a lawn, who got questioned by the FBI for being in a public place doing a protest. By the way, most BLM, protesters haven't been questioned for shit. The other thing that's a right is going into a restaurant. Another thing that's a right is going into a gym. These things are in states across the country being taken away. These are a right. I've had this semantical conversation, and guess what?
Or going into the houses of Congress. That is an American right.
Right. People did in Oklahoma a couple weeks after the quote unquote insurrection. They did the exact same thing, but because they were speaking on something different, they had full rights and they were escorted out gently without being arrested. So there is a lot of things that are being taken away from us that are our rights, specifically conservatives. I don't know. Based on some of the things you said, Gully, I thought you were conservative. I wasn't really sure. But I have no idea if you're just a troll wondering what a right is. But I can tell you.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on this, or being in the law enforcement realm, because I know you're all gonna try to bash me on that one. But
no, I'll have a conversation with it. Go ahead.
But a lot of people mix this up in the sense that
it's not a right. It is not a right.
If it's a business that says or calls me or whatever and says, "Hey, I need to come down there, deal with the dispute with the mask or whatever," it's not the mask that gets you in trouble when you're arguing the mask or the free speech or that aspect.
It's the
what gets you in trouble is the trespassing that would come with being in that business when that business owner says, "Hey, I need you out of there." And that's why cops go with trespassing charges rather than they don't. I'll tell you, the LEOs do not care about the mask. What they care about is the one law that does trip you up.
It's the private business. I've got no problem with that. I've got the problem with statewide mandates saying that if you do not have a pass, you cannot. If you do not have a vaccine card, you cannot enter a building. I also was told that I could not work something because I was white. This is real. I'm not kidding.
Different.
I was literally told they had to hire for a job that I've had for 10 years. They said, we have to hire a black person instead of you now. Sorry. Yeah. So these are, to me.
Yeah, that's definitely wrong.
Thank you. And I agree with you in terms of mass. I agree with you in terms of if a private business wants to do something, absolutely. Just because I disagree, I don't own the business. That's up to them. But yes. Having a right because of the color of your skin to work someplace, or being told as somebody half Jewish, hearing that you have to bring a fucking card in to say that you have had a vaccine. That, might I add, we're now seeing we need a third fucking booster. Governor Abbott, by the way, today just got found COVID positive. And you notice they don't talk about the fact that he was vaccinated. They talk about the fact that he, quote unquote, doesn't like masks. Ironic, because really he's actually having some health problems associated with it, and he's been vaccinated. But we avoid that in the conversation. So are you getting under my skin, Gully? I can delete you at any time. I really don't give a shit. I just want you to know that you're a fucking idiot.
Let's also say, though, that a job is not a right unless you're AOC. So you could say it was wrong that he was fired for being in there. But a job is not a right. A company can fire you for whatever reason. I think that it is perfectly justified for a company to not hire you because you're white. I just think everybody should know that company didn't hire you because you're white, so no one wants to work there.
NCAA, if anybody's wondering.
The NCAA is a horrible place. Just throw that on top.
Hey, Kevin, you're actually wrong on that. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 would dictate otherwise.
Violation of the Constitution in the technical sense.
You cannot discriminate based upon race.
I know that's what the Civil Rights Act says, but the Constitution allows for freedom. The First Amendment of the Bill of Rights says that you have freedom of association, which means I have the freedom to choose who I want to be around for whatever reasons possible, whatever reasons I dictate. Even if I own a business, I have the right to dictate who can come into or out of my business for whatever arbitrary,
For hiring purposes, I definitely can tell you that the Civil Rights Act is what they would use.
I know. I 100%. I know that. Doesn't mean that I agree with it. I think that the Civil Rights Act actually had some really big negative repercussions, such as now we don't know who the racists are in our community, and I can no longer make the educated, informed decision not to give a racist my money because they're not allowed to be open about their racism anymore. But at the end, also affirmative action was incredibly toxic, and the First Amendment gives freedom of association. Freedom of association goes away once the government says, no, you actually have to hire this person for this reason. You can't say no to this person for this reason. You no longer have the right to freedom of association. You can choose who you want to be around, except for on these circumstances. So the Civil Rights Act was technically, it was necessary. Do I think it was necessary? At the time, it was very necessary because racial divisions, I don't think we had the America then where businesses would have gone out because they said,
said no blacks allowed in our businesses because people were terrible like that. But we live in a society today where the very accusation of racism is enough to ruin your life. I do not doubt that businesses that said no blacks or no whites would go out of business. So the freedom of association is what's being violated by the Civil Rights Act. Not every law on the book is okay by the Constitution, unless that's the assertion that's going to be made that every law that exists is correct, and they aren't. A lot of them violate rights. Most of them violate rights. In fact, every one of them violates a right in some way, shape, or form.
Yep, agreed. So, anyways, I think we could wrap up. The last thing I want to make sure is everybody knows. The store is now open. I forgot to mention we do have the Cash shirts back. So if you go to, I got that blocked right there. So the Cash shirts, if you guys want to support Cash in one way, obviously Gully Bull doesn't. But besides that, if you guys want to support Cash, the shirts are back on the website. So all you got to do is go to hashtag BetheChange.com. I don't even know backslash. Just go to the shop on the top, and you will see all these different shirts, and you can see Cash's shirts. Those are the shirts that go directly to him and Erica. The proceeds will go there. So that's what we got for that. We've got a whole bunch of different stuff, Awake Not Woke, including the hats that I am wearing right now. It's another one with the Awake just on the front. There's some designs also on the back of some of these shirts as well. So go ahead and check that out. Make sure you do the coupon code. What is it, Casey?
Wake up.
Wake up. And that's what we got going on. Pretty excited to have all these new clothing and shirts up. The Awake Not Woke hat that I have. We also have the big Awake across. So we're sporting. Trying to show us I don't even know. I don't know, Barbara. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, I want to thank all of our guests on this show. There was more to talk about, I think, but I really just wanted to talk Afghanistan. I learned a lot more. I was getting very heated on my social media because I'm just frustrated. And honestly, hearing David talk, hearing Suni and Kevin, it calmed me down a little bit because ultimately, to me, it was just another knife in this horrible presidency. And although I think there was a lot that he's done wrong, I think there's a much bigger picture that we don't always see, no matter how much research we do. So thank you, David, for coming on. Kevin as well. Casey, as always, great questions. David, do you want to give us some final words real quick?
I don't really have much to say. All I can say, man, is just keep your heads up. I want to kind of have some optimism like Kevin and say, hey, we will pull through eventually, hopefully. If not, hey, it is what it is. But hey, I thank you guys for allowing me to be on here, man. If you guys ever need to talk about Afghanistan or know anything of any V3, just hit me up. You guys know where I'm at. So,
Sounds
and
good.
I will tell you, man, I've made the best decision ever, and I think you guys will agree. I left New Jersey for Tennessee.
Hell yeah.
Never been happier.
Hell yeah.
So,
And tell Chris thank you for his service too. I know he's law enforcement, I believe, as well, on top of military. So thank you all for everything that you do, and I'm glad you came back. I know that you and Suni last time didn't have a great show, but she really wanted you on as well, and we just wanted to make sure that sometimes we disagree about stuff, but sometimes there's we all have a great conversation. So I appreciate you.
Hey, I still love Suni though. All right, take care.
Take it easy, David. Kevin, go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So final word. I just want to say that I'm an incredibly optimistic person, and there is a very big reason for that. When my mother was pregnant with me, she was diagnosed with cancer and given 6 months to live. She passed away in 2018 after 25 years of dealing with what many scientists would call the most painful cancer that exists, one of the most painful diseases, bone marrow cancer. And the one thing that she always imparted upon me was hope. Don't ever, ever, ever let people tell you that something cannot be accomplished. Don't let anyone tell you what is impossible and what is not. You're the only one that gets to dictate that. I will remain optimistic until the day I die, because if there is not a hope, if there is not something worth fighting for on the other end, then I don't understand what we're even doing here. If you can't hold on to that hope, if that hope is not something that is strong enough and powerful enough to drive you and keep you going, then there's really nothing left. So I choose to hold on to that hope, and I will continue to fight for that hope and fight for that light. And if you guys enjoy what I have to say, follow me on Liberty Revolt Media. We're always trying to put out content there. And again, thank you guys so much for having me tonight. Casey,
did you see what he did? He made it impossible for me to drop him down. He finally found a way. That was like the South Park where we couldn't kill Kenny. I couldn't knock him down on that. That would have been the meanest, biggest asshole thing I could have done. And he managed to find a way to stay up there.
I knew you wouldn't do it either.
Casey, what
He
do you
just
got?
called you a pansy, is what
I
he
know.
did.
Casey, any final words?
No, a little bit, but I agree with Kevin. I'm generally more the optimistic type of sense that I believe America will always prevail. We will. The strong will, because we have more guns than we have people in our country, and most of the people that own those guns know how to use them and have many friends that know how to use them. And so I'm very optimistic in those scenarios too. I don't like the fact of dealing with allies and stuff because you're not going to send a bunch of random citizens over there to fight. Usually,
Yeah.
You could. Drafts do happen; they have happened, but we'll see. And I'll just end it with black guns matter.
Pew pew, pew pew. Yeah, that's. I mean, that was a good show tonight. I wanted to do more learning than talking. So I enjoyed everybody being on the show. I thank you guys for it. Make sure you check out the new website. You can find it on #BetheChange.com and go to shop, or you could do awakenotwoke.myshopify.com. Give a shout out to Casey. He put it all together. Thank you for that. And yeah, I mean, hope is important. I get that, and I think that we've spent enough time hoping for hope instead of fighting for hope. I think it's officially
let's fight for
time
it
to
then.
fight. I'm tired of seeing people like me be walked over. I had a long conversation, and I'll do a quick mention. Long conversation with an old friend that came at me on an email, and the misconceptions of us people that are fighting for everybody's freedoms is so mind-boggling that it's almost like everything we've done our entire life before the political theater that we've had in the last 2 years meant nothing to people. It's like we've had to completely start over. So from this place of starting over to explain where we are, I literally was demonized in a conversation because a friend of a friend reached out because they heard me on a show say something that I didn't think Proud Boys were that bad. And that
I've met them.
I've met a bunch, and that's what I said in the conversation. I said, I've met a bunch, and you know what? They're black, they're gay, they're Mexican, they're Cuban, they're all. So this misconception is the reason why you won't talk. You didn't talk to me. We've gone so far, and it's sick to me the way that we've ignored our friends over politics. And it's because of the fact that for the last year and a half, many of us thought the right thing to do, including me, was to just continue to be kind. We can be kind and also be firm at the same time. So I just want you guys to remember that. And if you want to continue to stay and turn the other cheek and be kind, I'm not faulting you for it. I give you credit. I just can't do it anymore.
We're not calling. You don't need to be kind, but you need to show love. You can be stern in your love, but
True.
you still need to love.
Yeah, like what I was doing to Gully. Okay, I'm kidding. I was just being a dick to Gully, but Gully deserved it. All right. Who put this up? What is this? Oh, Make America. Oh, yeah, it's funny. I guess I don't know if that was Suni that put that there. I have no idea. Anyways, be the change you guys wish to see in the world. Thank you guys so much. Everybody that came this last weekend. Also, again, thank you, Jackie, Chris. Renee is Chris. Everybody, Rhonda, thank you guys for coming. Kelly, of course, and of course the crew from Rico No Suave. You guys are amazing as well. Take it easy, guys, and have a great rest of your week.